Hello, my name is Eamonn O'Keeffe. I'm a research fellow here at the National Army Museum. 2025 marks the 250th anniversary of the battles of Lexington and Concord and the start of the American War of Independence. This was a landmark anti-colonial rebellion and the crucible in which a new nation was forged. In many respects, it was also a bitter civil war, a transatlantic conflict that fractured not only an empire, but divided families and local communities. Old allegiances were called into question, fiercely contested, and formulated anew. While the revolution is rightly remembered for championing bold Enlightenment ideals, it was initially driven by a conservative impulse, resistance to changes imposed from London. Britain's burgeoning American colonies had long enjoyed a high degree of autonomy, running their own affairs through local assemblies. But after a sweeping victory in the 7 Years' War, the British Parliament set out to reorganize its expanded empire, introducing new taxes and reforming colonial administration. To many in Britain, these measures seemed reasonable. The empire had just spent vast sums protecting the colonies from French and indigenous adversaries. Why shouldn't its inhabitants pay more for their own defense? But to plenty of American colonists, being taxed by a distant parliament in which they had no say felt unfair. It was government without the consent of the governed, a violation of the rights they felt entitled to as British subjects. London's efforts to quash colonial protests further inflamed feelings, as did the presence of the British Army in America. Local assemblies objected to shouldering the cost of housing British troops, seeing this as yet another unfair imposition. Meanwhile, tensions simmered between townspeople and troops, famously boiling over in Boston in 1770 when soldiers fired on a hostile crowd. 5 years later, in April 1775, British troops on a mission to confiscate stockpiled weapons were confronted by American militiamen in Lexington, Massachusetts. Shots rang out, and the 8-year war for America had begun. This was never a clear-cut clash between red-coated Britons and a united American populace. While some 40% of white colonists sided with the Patriots, as many as 1 in 5 actively supported the Crown. Enslaved people seeking liberty responded to promises of freedom from both sides, and many others understandably sought to remain neutral, conscious of the brutal reprisals that followed shifts in the local balance of power as armies came and went. Men who'd risked their lives for the crown in previous wars joined the patriot cause, including key generals like George Washington and the English-born Horatio Gates. Conversely, loyalist refugees born in the 13 colonies continued serving in the British Army long after American independence. They fought alongside Wellington in the Napoleonic Wars and even led troops against the United States during the War of 1812. 250 years ago, what began as a colonial campaign for a better deal within the British Empire evolved into an all-out struggle for a new American republic. As the recent musical Hamilton put it, the world would never be the same.